When people think of the Muppets, they think of those wild and crazy puppets causing all kinds of chaos, and certainly one of the most chaotic is the Great Gonzo. With his penchant for stunts and the hopes of exciting the audience, he managed to carve out an identity, and then over the years he would evolve and develop in interesting ways. And what's especially impressive is that Gonzo has been continually performed by Dave Goelz for almost 5 decades now. Before making his official debut on The Muppet Show, a couple of creatures of a similar appearance had appeared in a few specials, like the Great Santa Claus Switch, performed by other puppeteers. However, it was not until he was given to Goelz and the Muppet Show writers like Jerry Jewell and Jack Burns started devising his personality that he became that daredevil audiences would know and love. Although in Gonzo's early appearances on the show, his voice was slightly different and he was more scraggly looking. Goelz would then play around with his voice to find the right sound, and the puppet was also modified to make him look slightly more appealing and make his eyes more expressive. It's a great example of how just a few tweaks here and there can really transform a character into someone lasting and memorable. A lot of his antics on The Muppet Show involved taking part in some wild stunt, sometimes even pairing it with a famous piece of music. Gonzo would eventually become a major part of the core cast of the show, even be included in the intro where he tries to play a trumpet and then something funny happens. While most of the other Muppets were easily identifiable, people or animals, it was not clear what kind of species Gonzo was supposed to be, although the most common thing he's been called in various Muppet projects is a whatever, and I personally think the reason for that is he represents anyone who maybe feels like an outsider, but nonetheless feels comfortable about who they are. And that makes him getting together with the other Muppets and them welcoming him into their family all the more special. In a way, it can even represent how Dave Goelz was this newcomer coming in with his own excited ideas for puppets, showing them to Frank Oz and eventually Jim Henson, and being welcomed into the group where he would stay from then on. While developing the character, it was decided at one point to have Gonzo show romantic interest towards Miss Piggy, which was of course not returned on her end. However, this was eventually dropped, with the writers instead making him attracted to chickens, and honestly that's a much funnier idea. Camilla was then created to serve as his love interest, and the connection they have is definitely a sweet one. Gonzo would of course join the Muppets for further adventures on the big screen. In the Muppet movie, we see him riding with Camilla when they crash into Kermit and Fozzie on the road. One of the most touching scenes in the movie is when Gonzo sings the song "I'm Gonna Go Back There Someday." It's one example of what made the first Muppet movie so special, as in between the madcap antics, it was also willing to slow down and have these nice character moments. It's a beautiful song too, and a great chance for Gonzo to shine. In The Great Muppet Caper, he would serve as Kermit and Fozzie's photographer, which resulted in some humorous gags of his camera, including him taking a photo of a chicken. And in The Muppets Take Manhattan, Gonzo is shown doing one of his crazy stunts, accompanied by chickens, of course. I find the chicken bit one of the most endearing Muppet running gags, as it's great seeing how they stick with Gonzo through thick and thin. Probably Gonzo's best role in the movies was in The Muppet Christmas Carol, where he played Charles Dickens. It was a great and clever way to move the story along and allows for all sorts of fun meta jokes. They also paired him up with Rizzo the Rat, which led to all sorts of hilarious bits and even some sweet moments as Rizzo gets more invested in the story. That team-up will become a constant in Muppet media, and their personalities do bounce extremely well off each other. Gonzo and Rizzo also played central roles in Muppet Treasure Island, serving as good friends to Jim Hawkins. They were needed support for him and even helped defeat the pirates in the end, and is another example of how well they worked together. Gonzo's biggest role in a Muppet production would turn out to be Muppets from Space, which revealed Gonzo is different from the other characters because he's an alien, although that was not the original plan. In the initial draft of the script, it was revealed that the aliens were just big fans of the Muppet Show and they were inspired to look like Gonzo. However, this was changed to Gonzo actually being an alien. The movie itself taps into the idea of Gonzo being alone as the only one of his species, and I feel the idea of him being an alien was probably also inspired by questions about what exactly he was supposed to be. In the end, he decides to stay on Earth with the other Muppets rather than being with his own kind, and since then the franchise has gone back and forth on whether he's an alien or whatever. It really all depends on the whims of the writers, which the Muppets do often allow, as continuity has never been kept straight. Although back in my Kermit the Frog character profile, I offer my own theory on how the Muppet continuity works. In the 2011 Muppet movie, Gonzo is shown running a plumbing business, which serves as a callback to him also being a plumber in the first Muppet movie. They also have him continuing his daredevil antics on the telephone, and he helps kidnap Jack Black to appear on the show. Of course, he would appear again in Muppets Most Wanted to get into more hijinks. Between the movies, he has naturally appeared in several Muppet specials as well. In the Muppets Wizard of Oz, Gonzo played the role of the Tin Man. He also got the main role in the Disney Plus special Muppets Haunted Mansion, which I thought was a good bit of fun as he moved through the titular mansion. Curiously, instead of Rizzo, he was paired with Pepe the King Prawn in the special. Part of this is because, following Steve Whitmire's firing, it seems like they've not found anyone to perform the character, and I guess until someone decides to make Rizzo a speaking character again, it does not appear to be a top priority like it obviously was for Kermit. So until that happens, it looks like Gonzo will be paired up with other Muppets instead for the time being. Meanwhile, some media outside of the main movie, shows, and specials have also depicted Gonzo, most notably the animated series Muppet Babies. On that show, his younger self was voiced by Russi Taylor, the future voice of Minnie Mouse. You can also hear a bit of her Huey, Dewey, and Louie in her Gonzo voice. The character received some attention in the recent Muppet Babies show, where he was voiced by Benjamin Diskin, who even won a Daytime Emmy Award for Outstanding Performer in a Preschool Anime Program for his role as Gonzo. An episode that had people talking had Gonzo put on a dress with a message about being comfortable who you are. As the producers of the show explained, that's very much a big part of Gonzo, who's often strived to be whoever he is, regardless of cultural norms. His status as being different from the other Muppets has long made him an identifiable character for many, with several seeing themselves in Gonzo. He just wants to be himself while also being accepted as part of this group, and that's very sweet. As I mentioned in the beginning of the video, the puppet version of Gonzo has been performed by Dave Goelz since almost his inception, and he played a key role in bringing those traits to him. He clearly identifies a lot with Gonzo, and its character near and dear to his heart. While I'm sure the day will eventually come when he will have to pass the torch, it's wonderful that he remains eager to play the role. And he's done a fantastic job playing other Muppets too, like Dr. Bunsen Honeydew and Waldorf. There's something special about this character that has absolutely led him to becoming one of the most memorable of the Muppet gang. See you next time.